What's good, everybody? I'm gonna make a video about just the basics of getting started within Logic Pro X or Logic Pro 10. Um, I actually had to write down everything that I had to talk about because I kept on getting way off track. So we're gonna start by opening up Logic Pro, and Logic Pro will by default open up your last project that you worked on. I'm pretty sure there's a setting where you can have that not happen, but it doesn't really bother me, so I just leave it. And this is my last project, so I'm just gonna close that. So you're gonna go to File, hit New, and it's gonna bring you to this window, and this is where you can add audio tracks. So you can also add software instrument tracks, drummer tracks, external MIDI tracks, and guitar bass tracks, but we're not gonna mess with any of these today, just the audio. So I'm gonna add one track for now, and I'll show you how to add additional tracks later on throughout. So that's how you add it, and it's gonna be in this column right here. So before we get going, I'm gonna make sure that we have all of our tools available. And when you first start Logic, you won't have everything available to you unless you check everything off. So I'm gonna show you how to activate your advanced editing tools. So we're gonna go to Logic Pro X, go to Preferences, down to Advanced Tools, and you want to click Enable All. And as you can see, mine are all enabled. So make sure all of these are clicked, because if they're not, you might not see some of the options that I'm showing you within this video. So that's how you turn on your advanced editing tools. So we're gonna, I'm just gonna show you exactly what everything is on this screen because it can be kind of intimidating. It gets a lot easier as you use Logic, so don't be afraid to touch buttons and move things around and stuff. That's how you learn, right? So up here, this is called your transport bar, and it has a whole bunch of information. It has the back your playback keys and record button. This is where you could change the master tempo by just clicking and dragging up and down, or you could double click on it and type whatever your BPM that you want. This is a volume slider. I don't mess with this. I think this is more just for listening back. I don't think it affects the actual project volume. I'll show you where the master volume for the project is in a minute. So yeah, I'm not gonna get too much into what all of these are. If you do want to know, you could just hit this little icon here, the help icon, and as you scroll over, it'll show you what each button or display is about. So I'm going to turn that off. Let me see. Okay, so these are your pointer tools or cursors or whatever you want to call them. You have a main and then you have a secondary. So I usually use the secondary for like my fade tool if I'm fading out a track, like if I did a mix, or if I'm trying to make maybe a smoother transition from one audio region to the next. But yeah, so just today we're going to use just the regular pointer tool. So that's where you would find all of your different pointer tools within here. So, and to activate the secondary, this is your main. To activate your secondary, you would just basically hold Command and then click on whatever like you need to do. So that's the cursors or the pointers. The inspector. So the inspector is this column over here, and it can be toggled on and off by just pressing I on your keyboard. I like to leave it on just because this is like it shows you like the volumes of your tracks and stuff that you're working on. So let's get into what some of these things are over here. So this right channel strip is your master out or your stereo out, and any effects or anything that you apply to this channel will affect the overall project. This channel strip here is for each individual track. So this right here, since we're clicked on or highlighted on audio one, anything that I apply to this channel strip will only affect this track. So that's the channel strips. Up here, this is more for like quantize. That's more for producing. We can get into that in another video. We really won't need that right now. So this is once again called the inspector. Now, this giant dark gray area is what they call the workspace area, or I like to call it my arrangement window. This is where you do your editing. This is where all your audio files or your MIDI files will be, and you can move them, edit, cut, paste, do whatever within this window. So I'm going to show you how to add additional audio tracks. You just have to click this little plus button. It'll bring you back to this the original window, and you can click audio, and then you can add as many as you'd like. So I'm just going to add two just to show you. And there, now you have 3 audio tracks, and these are the 2 additional ones that you have. Now, let's say that you have effects on audio 1, and you want to bring in, let's say that you have a vocal with reverb, and you basically like you made the reverb and you tweaked it to your own liking, and you want to put it on another channel with some other vocals, and you want so basically you want to duplicate this track with the plugin or the effect. So you can just hit this button, and it'll duplicate the track, and then you can add whatever vocal that you'd like. So it just basically copies all of the settings from audio 1 and brings it to that new track. So I'm just going to delete that new track that we just did. And to delete a track, you just have to click on it and press delete. By default, you always have to have at least 1 audio track or instrument track or drummer track to start the project. So that's that. Okay, so up here, snap. This is when you add a file, a smart snap, as you drag your audio file within the arrangement window, it'll smart snap to the closest bar or the closest beat. And as you zoom in and out, you can get closer and closer to the bar or the beat. And I'll show you a little bit about that when we add the actual file, which I'm going to do right now. So there's a couple ways you can add files. You can just right click on the audio track that you want to put it on, and just right click and hit audio file and add audio file. It'll take you to this window, and you could search and find whatever file that you're looking to add. Another way is to go to this is called your browser or media browser, and audio file, and you can add audio file. So I'm just going to add one. Sorry. Let's see if I can find my DJ drop. Okay. I don't want to add anything too big because whatever. Let's just add. I don't know what this is. Yeah, whatever. So I'm gonna add it, and then it's gonna analyze right here, and then all you got to do is drag and drop it. So that's how you add an audio file. Okay, so I'm just gonna close this browser. Now, if you want to do some editing with this file, obviously right now, if you just want to cut chunks of it off because you didn't want to use like the whole track, you can move your playhead. So as you can see, like my cursor is like these 2, I guess you'd call them like, I don't know, parentheses or whatnot. So this is your playhead, this thing right here that I'm moving. This is called your playhead. And what it's moving on is what you call the ruler. And these numbers up here are bars. So 1 bar, 2 bars, 3 bars, 4 bars. And these little ticks are the beats. So that's that. To zoom in and out, right now the way that I'm doing it, I'm using my fingers, just spreading them out and closing them. That's one way to do it. You also have these 2 sliders in the corner. This is for your vertical zoom, I guess you can call it, a vertical zoom, and a horizontal zoom. So you can get right in there to make detailed edits. Okay, so that's our sliders. I'm going to show you how to trim files. So when you move your pointer or your cursor over the bottom left or right, of the audio region, which is this. This is called an audio region. It'll change the pointer to the editing pointer, and you can just click and you can drag. And by doing that, you can make it either shorter or you can open it right to the end of the audio region if you'd like. And it works at the front of the track as well. So that's how you do that. You could also split the regions too, and I guess I'll just show you that quick. Let's say that I didn't want this whole file. I just want to use like the front of it or the beginning part. I'm going to move my playhead over to wherever I want it, and let's say that I want to split it right there. So my shortcut for this, and I do suggest using shortcuts because it makes it a lot easier than dragging and clicking and finding opening menus and whatnot. So the way to do that, my shortcut is Command T, and just like that, it splits the audio region, and you could choose whichever one that you want to use. So we're going to keep the first audio region, and we're going to delete this one right here just by clicking on it and pressing delete. And that's how you delete. Now, let's say that you made a mistake and you're like, oh crap, I didn't want to delete all of that. You could just hold the bottom right of the audio region and just extend it back. It doesn't delete it right away, which is awesome because if you do make a mistake, you don't have to delete this audio region and then re-add it and whatnot. So it doesn't necessarily delete it, it just trims it. So that's how you do that, by splitting the regions. And to find your key commands so that you can make your own customizable shortcuts, you go back to Logic Pro X under key commands, and then you go to edit. And then I won't get too much into this because it's video on its own. So this is where you'll find all of your shortcuts if you're looking for them. So let's say that we're looking for the piano roll shortcuts. They're all in here. And if you're looking for a specific command within Logic, you can just search it in the key command search box, which is up here. So the one that I just did was split regions. So I'll show you. So split regions. And right here, this is what I did. I split the regions at the playhead, and it was Command T. And then you can change this, like I said, by basically going to learn, not touch bar, learn new assignment, and then it's just a whole other video. So I'll get into that in another video. But you could mess around and figure that one out too. I'm gonna close that up, and then last, I'm gonna show you how to add an effect and an EQ to an individual track. So I'm going to add first the EQ to this Boyz II Men track. So what we do is we go to our left channel strip, which controls, once again, the individual audio track. I'm going to double click on EQ, and it's going to bring up your EQ right here. And you got all your bass and mids and highs. You got low pass filters and high pass filters and all that. You can also mess with it down here too. But yeah, I'll leave that up to you to mess around because there's no right way and wrong way to do that. So let's say that I want to, actually, before I even say that, so every time you add a plugin, it's going to bring up a window like this, which shows you all the different options that you have to control that specific plugin. And each plugin comes with presets, and you can access the presets two ways. One way is to just hit the drop down box, and then you have the presets under here. So if, let's say, like you have drums, you can set a drum preset, and you could also do it with these two little arrows. I like to use the arrows because I like to play the track and kind of shuffle through the different presets to find the one that I'm looking for, if I'm looking for a preset. So I'll just show you what that may sound like. I'll just cut the bass on this track so that you can hear it. So let me press play. Whoops. Go back to the beginning, move your player to the beginning. So as you can hear, I cut the bass out. Now, let's say you want to hear it again without the bass cut out, and you don't want to drag this back to the original setting. This is your bypass button, and if I press it, so as you can hear, when it's activated, it activates your plugin. When you take it off, obviously it takes it off. So that's how you can do that. So that's your EQ. To add different kind of effects, they're also located in your channel strip right under. So because we double clicked the EQ, that's a plugin, and it added it to our audio effects. So right under here is a little bar, and if you click it, it opens up, and your most recent plugins you're gonna find within the top 5, but all of these are within these plugins down here. So you could find your BPM counter under metering. You could find pitch correction under pitch. You could find the echo under the delays. And yeah, so let's just add a delay echo, and we're gonna do stereo. And I'll just play that so that you can hear it. And once again, you have this little window that gives you all of your available settings that you can mess with yourself. So press play, and you can hear that echo. I'm gonna bypass the echo. Let me put it back on. So yeah, that's how you add, and you could add as many plugins to each track. But as you add more plugins, it does work your CPU a lot harder. There's a way to add multiple plugins on an individual track, but that's a little bit more of a detailed video for later on. So that's how you add plugins and stuff to the individual audio track. Now, if you wanted to apply EQ to your whole project, you would use the master or the stereo out, and you add effects the same way that you would in the audio track channel strip. Just go to audio effects, echo, or whatever that you feel like adding. So that's that. Up here, this is your cycle loop bar or your cycle range, and the way that you activate it is just by clicking on it. Once it's orange or yellow or mustard colored, whatever, it's activated. So what it'll do, it'll just keep on playing the selected region. Turn off the echo. So if you're working on a specific area of your audio file and you don't want to keep on moving your playhead back to the beginning of that specific spot, this is how you would do it, just to isolate certain areas. And you could hold either side and extend it or shorten it. So that's that. And so yeah, so that's basically how you get started within Logic. I don't want to get too much into anything else because there's a lot to learn within Logic. So just remember, don't be afraid to touch things and move sliders up and down and knobs, turn them, add different effects, just to get to learn everything. That's kind of how I learned, by trial and error. And yeah, so that's basically how you do that, how you add audio files and get started in editing within Logic. So I also wanted to add that up here within each audio track, you can, let's say like you have a whole bunch of different tracks. So let me just add another track to show you what I mean. Audio file. And I'll just open up the same one again. Actually, I didn't even have to open that because I'm using the same file. So let me just delete that. So because I'm just going to use this same audio file as an example, I'm just going to click it over here and just drag it onto my next audio track. So let's say like you have 2 audio tracks, but you only want to listen to the first audio track. You could either solo it so that when you're playing it, it'll mute everything else. And if you don't do this, it'll basically obviously play both of them. You can also mute it like that. It's whatever that you want to do, really. So yeah, that's that. So I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, thanks for listening. And if you have any questions or comments, just hit me up in either the comments or hit me up on social media. Instagram is probably the best way to get at me. At Jungle Junkie, YYZ. That's at Jungle, and then Junkie spelled JUNKEE, YYZ. So yeah, thanks for watching. Peace.